And we know that on a center pivot, we start at the pivot point. It acts as a base of alignment, and we know that the end tower is going to move, so the machine aligns from the pivot to the end tower. And as the machine moves, all the intermediate towers just keep up. Their job is just to keep up, as we saw out in the field. So once you understand the operation, that we adjust the speed according to how fast we make the end tower run, and then all the other towers simply keep up and stay in alignment between the pivot point and the end tower, then we got the battle won pretty much for operation of the center pivot for just the guy that's going to be turning it on and making it run. We have to be then aware of whether we have the water on or off. Sometimes we run them dry. Most of the time we run them wet. We will run them dry occasionally just to move them out of the way for farming operations. The rest of the time they're going to be running wet. One thing you have to be also aware of is you never want to park something in a tire track so that it gets driven over. So if you're out working around a center pivot, you never park a piece of equipment in a wheel track, because it's very likely that that machine is going to be coming around soon and might walk right over the top of whatever you park there. And it doesn't matter if it's a tractor or a four-wheeler or your pickup truck. You know, it'll take it on and give it a pretty good dent before it's done. Operations also would include then the occasional lubrication of the appropriate gearboxes that are on the machine. So we have to be aware that we have some fluids that have to be maintained within the system. According to the manufacturer's specifications, there's going to be 2 gearboxes on each tower for the wheels and 1 for the motor. They require generally 140 weight gear lube. There's going to be some kind of connections, linkages between the gearboxes and the motor. So we have couplers that have to be maintained. Most of those have a rubber disc or a rubber insert that has to be monitored for wear at a point where they finally deteriorate and tear themselves up and need to be replaced. We have to be concerned about the electrical contacts within the machine, within the different tower boxes and the pivot panel. So on occasion we have to clean those boxes out. So there's a little bit of maintenance that has to be done. Generally that's done like at the beginning of the season or during the winter time. When there's some downtime, you can go out and do a full maintenance on all the electrical and get it all cleaned up for the next year's running. And things like cleaning the contact points on the contactors and making sure all the connections are tight on the terminal strips, all the wire connections are tight. Because over time these things are vibrating and everything is kind of wiggling apart. Those things just vibrate all the time as they're running, and as the wind hits them, there's just an awful lot of action going on a center pivot. Also, you go through and tighten all the bolts once a year on the system and set them according to the torque specifications. Any questions on operations? Okay.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes, Carl.
Say that something breaks down in next 2 pivots away from the end. Is there any kind of emergency shut off, or does it just break the pipe?
Okay, Carl wants to know if there's a failure like 2 towers out from the end, and that tower for some reason stops running. Does the rest of the machine know when to stop, or does it just keep going until the thing collapses? Well, hopefully the safety system works within the machine. There is a backup micro switch in the system that will trigger it off once it gets about anywhere from 3 to 5 degrees deflection. So it's monitoring deflection, and if it gets 1 to 2 degrees out of deflection, it tells the tower to move. Now if the tower didn't move, the outboard tower just keeps going, and once it gets to 5 degrees deflection, that cam is going to then trigger the next micro switch, which is the safety micro, and it'll kill it right on the spot. And then you can look down the machine and you'll see it'll be dead straight, and then all of a sudden, ding, you'll see the tower that had stopped. And it'll be real obvious because there'll be deflection in the line. And then the rest of the towers out from there will be straight, and there'll be a dog leg. There'll be a dog leg right in the line, and you'll know the problem is always right where the dog leg is. That tower failed or ran away. It failed one way or the other. It either stalled or ran away. But that will always be the case, yeah. So there is a backup safety to protect that machine from crashing. You know, there's what happens when they crash. There's a picture of one up there on the wall of one that the safety failed on. It didn't trigger.